Weird random historical facts. Pluto technically isn't even a year old. Pluto was discovered on February 18, 1930. It is the farthest dwarf planet from the Sun, requiring it to go a much further distance than we're used to on Earth. It takes 248 Earth years for Pluto to complete one rotation of its own around the Sun. This places Pluto's first birthday since its discovery on Monday, March 23, 2178. The cast of Friends still earns around $20 million each year. When the show came to an end, the cast of the popular TV show Friends negotiated syndication rights for themselves. That means they each receive 2% of the revenue from reruns airing across all broadcasting companies. Since the much-loved TV show still pulls in around $1 billion of revenue, Ross, Rachel, Joey, Monica, Phoebe, and Chandler all make major dough each year for doing, well, nothing. $20 million is the estimate. Saudi Arabia imports camels from Australia. Saudi Arabia is known for its vast expanse of deserts, so it may seem unbelievable that they rely on Australia to supply them with animals that dominate their landscape. Australia originally had camels imported to be used for transporting heavy loads or for riding. They were let loose when their work was done, causing an unwanted spike in their population. Australians then sold the camels back to desert-based countries like Saudi Arabia, which use camels at a much higher volume. The Apollo astronauts' footprints on the moon could stay there for 100 million years. When the Apollo astronauts walked on the surface of the moon, they left behind footprints that will remain there for a very long time. Due to the fact that there is no atmosphere on the moon and therefore no wind or water to blow or wash anything away, Arizona State University scientist Mark Robinson told Space that traces of the Apollo exploration could last between 10 and 100 million years. There's an entire town under a rock. If you've ever been accused of living under a rock, you feel right at home in Seteno de las Bodegas in Spain. Most of this tiny town's 3,000 residents live and work and play in a gorge beneath a huge rocky outcropping, where homes are built right into the rock. It provides so much shelter that historians think the area has been occupied by human settlements since the Stone Age. For 100 years, maps have shown an island that doesn't exist. Almost nothing is known about Sandy Island, a landmass about the size of Manhattan in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Australia. Supposedly, explorer James Cook discovered it in 1774, and it began appearing on nautical maps in 1908. It wasn't until 2012, when a team of Australian scientists set out to survey the island, that they discovered there was no island there at all. The scientists guessed that Cook may have in fact spotted a pumice raft, or floating volcano stoning gas. Dolphins have been trained to be used in wars. Dolphins are known widely as adorable, intelligent animals. What is not as widely known is that these crafty creatures were used by the US and Soviet Union during the Vietnam War and the Cold War. Both countries studied the creatures for their sonar capabilities, but also trained them to detect mines, bring equipment to divers, find lost equipment, and guard submarines, amongst other nifty tricks. Space smells like seared steak. When you see footage of astronauts floating peacefully in space, do you ever wonder, what does space smell like? Well, according to some former astronauts, space does have a distinct odor that hangs around post-spacewalk. They've described it as hot metal or searing steak. Your nostrils work one at a time. When we breathe in and out of our nose during the day, one nostril does most of the work at a time, with the duties switching every several hours. This nasal cycle is dictated by the same autonomic nervous system that regulates heart rate, digestion, and other unconscious bodily functions, and is the reason why, even when one nose gets stuffed up, it does so one nostril at a time. Water makes different pouring sounds depending on its temperature. If you listen very closely, hot water and cold water sound slightly different when being poured. The heat changes the thickness or viscosity of the water, which changes the pitch of the sound it makes when it's poured. What we feel as heat comes from the molecule of the water moving faster. Cold water is thicker and therefore makes a slightly higher pitched sound. The hottest spot on the planet is in Libya. Specifically, the hottest spot ever recorded on Earth is El Azizia in Libya, where a temperature of 136 degrees Fahrenheit was recorded on September 13, 1922. While hotter spots have likely occurred in other parts of the planet at other times, this is the most scorching temperature ever formally recorded by a weather station. A cliffhanger. In 2001, a DJ in England decided to prank his listeners on April 1st by broadcasting that a ship that looked suspiciously like the Titanic could be seen from the cliffs of Beachy Head in East Sussex. Hundreds of listeners believed him, trekking to the cliffs to catch a glimpse. But unfortunately, because of all the foot traffic, it caused a large crack in the cliff face. A few days later, it fell into the sea. As fun as pranks are to pull, never fuck with Mother Nature. The two DJs were later fired because of this accident.